All right, hello there, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. HMR's Facebook Live on Thursday night, our support event. I'm here with Coach Nancy. Hi, Nance. How are you tonight?
Hi. I'm great, Rick. Thank you.
Yeah, great. We were trying to use a different type of technology tonight that would make it easier for people to sort of click on, get the notification that we were live, and one touch. I think we have a couple of things to figure out there. So rather than go pursue that any further, here we are. So thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. Let's get right into it, Nancy. You know, I was looking back. It kind of feels like you and I have been doing this forever. It's kind of
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's melded into everything else we do. And this is our 11th episode.
Oh, wow.
Which is great. And it's just been awesome. And I just want to thank, if you're watching this, whether you're live here, whether you've been here for all 11, wow, that would be amazing. Or if you're watching this after the fact, thanks for taking the time to check in with us. We really appreciate that. Let us know that you're here by posting. I see some people are already doing that, Nancy.
We're getting some highs already.
Yeah, it's great. So who do we have here?
We got a lot of our regulars. I love this. We've got
Daria. Susan.
Iris.
Hello,
and
Iris.
Sherry.
Excellent.
Hello, you guys.
Thank you,
Everybody,
guys.
as you're coming on, please tell us you're here.
So prompt.
We got a new one. Oh boy, Anateria. I'm going to ruin your name. Anateria. We have Mary from Wisconsin, Suzanne, Jennifer. Jennifer, all 11 weeks. That doesn't surprise me.
Jennifer, that's right. You are, and if you skip,
Jennifer.
I'm gonna. You live in my state. I'm gonna come to your house if you miss one.
We got Dana, who's great because we want to talk to her. We got Shane.
Dana, excellent. Shane, awesome, good bro, awesome.
Kim, Andrea, love it. A lot of people coming on.
Love it, love it, love it. So we'll revisit this a few times, Nancy, but just by way of grounding ourselves. Tonight, you saw it in the description, we're talking about breaking through the glass ceiling. Now, that's a metaphor we've all heard 1,000 times, and it basically speaks to this whole notion that whatever endeavor you're undertaking, that there's some sort of an invisible barrier that prevents you from advancing to the next level. It's like not that evident that it's there, but it's there. So here, Nance, we are applying this much more specifically to the matter at hand, right? Behavior change and achieving better results with your weight, whether it's increasing your weight loss, losing more weight, or better managing the weight you've lost, whatever. Or, Nance, I think you could just call it becoming more skilled at practicing a healthy lifestyle. I mean, it could be any of those things, right?
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
So we're applying this glass ceiling concept here to basically mean the limits that we set that prevent us from becoming more skilled with our weight loss, weight management, or practicing a healthier lifestyle. And I'll just say that, you know, this happens all the time, right? I mean, no one's immune to this, the glass ceiling effect, if you will. So, on one hand, the fact that we do this could be construed as bad news. Maybe more bad news is the fact that we're almost 100% of the time, Nancy, unaware that we do it. Right? But there's good news. And that is that, first of all, just by recognizing the fact that we do this, instantly has you operating at a more sophisticated level than someone who thinks there is a ceiling there, when in fact, you've sort of created it. But I will say there's one more thing, and this is kind of the thrust of the discussion, Nance, also positive. There are ways to break through the glass ceiling, and we've got a technology for doing that. We've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks, and we're going to continue that discussion here. So ultimately, it's a sad fact of reality that glass ceilings, we impose them on ourselves, but really at the root of it, if you put it under the microscope, we can come away with a really hopeful message, which is you don't have to be limited by these glass ceilings because we can just blow them away, and that's what we're going to do tonight.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So, has anyone else joined us here, Nance? I'm going to see if I can pull us up on Facebook.
What I'm loving now is that people are saying, I've been here all 11 weeks. I've been here since the beginning, or close to the beginning. So, I love this.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, you know, Nance, I'll just say, I know those people because they heard me say it, whatever, 10 weeks ago. They are lobbying for the mythical plaque that we said we were going to send in the mail for people who were here every week if they were an official regular. But maybe we won't make that mythical. Let's bring that to the decision.
We got a lot of regulars, that's for sure.
Let's bring that to the decision committee. Maybe we will institute something. All right.
We'll add that in.
All right, go ahead. Who else is joining us?
Casey's back. Bob's back. Yeah, Shane's
Bob.
going my 11th episode.
That's right.
I love this. Karen says several weeks with you guys.
Mm.
And
Tired of us yet?
Coach Jennifer and Coach Kate are both on, which is awesome.
Awesome. One of the major things we're doing tonight, thank you, Coach Jennifer, it was your idea, and it just felt so right when you suggested that we cover this in tonight's episode, so thank you for that. And Kate's my coach, so
yeah.
80% of what I say here is a function of her coaching me to up on my health habits.
Yes, so that's great. We've got Doug. I love this. Doug says, since I tuned in 2 to 3 weeks ago, you got me motivated and I joined 9-round kickboxing and attended the first class this week. So
tremendous.
I love it. That's so wonderful to hear that. That's going out on the Skinny Branches, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it just shows you, Nance, that there's a different exercise for everybody, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
My God, that's awesome. Bob, way to go. Really good. Really, really good.
And we have Coach Sandy here as well.
Great, Sandy, my co-host. We need to come back to Sandy and I co-hosting on those other episodes that we had done.
Yeah.
All right.
Silver linings. And yes, so we've got more and more people. I love it.
All right, so let's get to it, because we are going to do what essentially it evolved over the time, and it's now become a thing, which is the accountability spotlight. And let's make no bones about it. We're going to spend more time on this tonight than we typically do, just as a function of how engaged and really out there everyone was last week in the episode. So there's a lot to follow up on here. So if you're watching for the first time, you know, we've got our regulars, we've got people who are tying in live for the first time, but we also have many, many people who watch these discussions that we have after the fact on video. So let me just describe that if you haven't heard it. The accountability spotlight, I mean, let's face it, there are a lot of things that increase your chances of following through on what you say you're going to do, but accountability may be number one. So during these conversations that we have on Thursday nights, a lot of ideas come up, and it occurs to our viewers as, hey, that's a good idea, similar to if you were in a group, a weight loss group or a weight management phase 2 group with HMR. And these ideas come up and people are enthusiastic about practicing, but then, Nance, they go to the next level. Those skinny branches that you talk about, they commit to doing it publicly within the community that we're building here. And boy, oh boy, that is playing with the big boys when you do that, because you're basically committing publicly to what you're going to do. Now, right up front, we want to say this a lot, Nance, we're not judgmental. If you don't do it, that's okay. It's much more important that you're engaged in the process than exactly saying what you do to the letter. But the accountability spotlight is something we invite people to take on. If you think something's a good idea and you want to do it this week, you could say it to yourself, and it's a good idea to document it rather than just keeping it in your head. But if you then post it in the comments section, well, now you are under the accountability spotlight, and we're going to follow up with you, and it's always supportive, and it's always with the intention of helping you get better at achieving what you say you're going to do. What else would you say about that, Nance? Does that sort of cover it, or?
I think that covers it. I think there's always learning that happens whether you are able to do the full blast or not. There's always something that comes out of it. Mm-hmm. And by discussing it here, you're also helping other people with sharing ideas. So it's a very valuable process to be following up on these.
Yep. So last week was amazing. We had more people than ever before choosing to be accountable to what they said they were going to do. And again, that's advanced right there when you choose that level of accountability. What were they being accountable about? Well, for those of you who watched, you know, but for those of you for whom you're watching this for the first time, we've been talking about this strategy. It's a planning strategy that really, it may be, Nance, the most effective way to blast through that glass ceiling that we just talked about. And we call it the BLAST plan. And I will define it in a moment. But Nance, I say this was the most enthusiastic episode in terms of people taking on the accountability spotlight. Add a little color to that if you could.
Well, it was funny. We were talking about it and the value of it. People were starting to post blast plans before we even got through the entire definition. So we really had a lot of people on board. We had done it as we thought an excellent strategy to support people through the Memorial Day, the long weekend. You know, there's more weekend days, less structured days, always more challenging to manage calories, whether you're in phase 1 or phase 2.
Right.
So we thought this would be a great vehicle, and just people were so on board.
They really were. It was just totally awesome. So what is a blast plan? Some of you might be saying. Well, it's basically picking a day, one day, right? Not 7 days of the week.
Right,
One. When you push yourself to go well above what would be a typical high day on any of the big 3 behaviors that we focus on in the program, the to-do behaviors. It could be HMR foods, it could be fruits and vegetables, or it could be physical activity. So again, what's your typical high? And then you step in with both feet and say, I'm going to blast above what was my ceiling. I mean, there's your glass ceiling right there, Nancy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to blast above that. And one of the things that I think is a hugely important, people can be very tough on themselves. Let's say you're going to do the plan I did a few weeks ago, 12 servings of fruits and vegetables. Whether you meet the exact goal that you stated for yourself, you will find, or not, you will find that there is huge value in having pushed yourself, in having gone through that whole process of figuring out what might I need to do differently in order to achieve a higher result. Nancy, what would you say about that in terms of like value either way? You can meet it or not, but if you're behind it, you're going to get some value.
There's no doubt. And I think probably the best is just to review some of them, and we'll kind of be able to see those benefits as we go along. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we had a lot. I'm going to... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so let me just say, I counted 21 blast plans written in comments last week. That's well above what we've typically had.
Incredible.
And what was funny, it divided evenly amongst 7 that were related to physical activity, 7 related to veggie fruits, and 7 related to meal replacements. So what I'd like to do, and some of you actually went for more than one behavior, so there's a couple of people that have their name on here twice.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'd like to do, Rick, if it's okay, I'm going to quickly read everyone's name. And what I'd like you to do is listen for your name if you're here, and then we'd like to hear from you. So here's what we'd like to hear. Were you able to do the blast plan or not? Tell us what it was. Were you able to do it or not? And again, I'll say it again. There's no judgment. If you weren't able to pull it off, tell us, what you were able to do. And then, whether you did it or not, think about a value you got out of pushing and planning and taking this on. What's got a value out of it? And what was a strategy or behavior that you did that you would repeat? All right? So did you do it or not? And whether you did it or not, was it valuable? How was it valuable? And what was at least one strategy that you did that day that you'd repeat?
Perfect.
All right, so quickly. Physical activity. Sharon, D, Lynn, Dave, Jennifer, Vicky, Shirley, and Nancy. Veggie fruits. Kate, Shane, Susan, Shirley, Nancy, Dana, and Jeanette. Meal replacements. Kate, Rick, this Nancy, me, Terry, Karen, Sharon, Sherry, and Jeanette.
That's right.
So, you know who you are.
Yep.
And I'm going to see if there are anyone that has comments in. Let me just quickly... we actually have Sherry. Should I mention this one? You want to start with this? Or do you want to...
Yeah, whatever. As long as people are clear, did you do it? Yes or no? Was there value in doing that, even if you didn't meet it 100%? And what would you do again from that experience of pushing yourself? That's what we're looking for. So as people are listening to our discussion, we are relying on you to give us an update on that.
Yeah, I think Sherry's got 2 out of 3 here. So Sherry, if you want to specify what was a strategy that you would repeat to add to what you did, I think that'd be great. But she did the shake blast that she said she was going to do, and she was going for 7 shakes on Saturday and Sunday. She said, but she did stray out of the box anyway, which again, it's okay. I mean, I'm guessing it was far less out of the box than you would have if you hadn't had that blast plan. And then you spoke to your coach, which is perfect thing to do. And your coach gave you great advice and helped you come up with a major insight that you think is going to make a big difference in my weight loss journey. So, you know, again, there's always learning that comes out of these by pushing yourself to do something like that. And if you do feel that you want to specify a specific behavior you did that you'd repeat or something like that, would love to follow up on that.
Yeah, that's great. So I see people are responding.
Yes.
I know that we had, during the week, we had asked people to respond, and we got a few different comments there. I know we wanted to review Dana, Nancy. I don't know. You make the call here. Do you want to respond to some people in the moment, or do you want to talk about Dana's response, which was just awesome?
Yeah, Dana's was absolutely amazing.
Let's go with some of the live comments.
I was going to say, let's go with a few live comments, and then we'll bring up Dana. How's that sound?
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, since people are really, you know, doing what we asked them to do. So Karen, who was also going for 7 shakes. She did the blast of 7 shakes on Saturday and on Sunday by doing double shakes, pudding, and cereal. So she used a lot of variety there.
Wow, the big time.
It left me full and not searching for late night snacks. So there's the value. Thanks for the idea. So again, the one other thing I'd ask you to think about, Karen, is what was at least one thing you did that day that you would repeat?
Nancy?
Yes.
For people listening, full and not looking for late night snacks. If we told you there was like a magic button you could push that would have you be full and not looking for late night snacks, would you push the button?
Definitely.
I think the episode's over. Do blast plans. Only kidding. That is a great comment. And I wanted just to make sure people didn't let that just go by. Like the blast plan, not that you want to do it all the time, because it really is pushing yourself pretty hard. But boy, oh boy, this just shows you what's possible around a situation that is so frustrating for people. Nancy, the late night hungry horrors, it's tough.
And it also goes to show you, I mean, at times you think, well, it's I've got to do everything after dinner to protect it. But, you know, here's an example of really staying full all day.
Yeah.
Right? Never allowing herself to get hungry, doing another one and another one and another one really ultimately led to, by the end of the night, she just didn't go for the late night snacks. So, that, you know, you never know what you're going to find out unless you try it. I think that's always my big thing is you never know unless you try it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you try something and it doesn't work. Great, but then other times you try and it does work, and you never know unless you actually attempt it.
And by means of preview, we're going to talk about this later, but it's okay to be full. We've talked about this the last couple of weeks. It's okay to be full. It's called being human, to want to be full after you've eaten. So we'll talk about that, but there's a lot of judgment that people impose on themselves, Nancy, that is just not fair. So hopefully we can continue to sort of tease those issues apart as we talk about the blast plan.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go with anyone else, or should we get into Dana?
1,000 on Sunday, and she said I blew it out of the water with 1,432 calories of physical activity along with her 6 shakes. And she said the value was the accountability, which makes a lot of sense. And I would probably do physical activity more spread out during the day. So what I like is she's also evaluating it and seeing not only what was helpful, but what she might do differently. So she said she did a lot really quickly, and she thinks it'd be better if she spread it more out during the day rather than trying to get it all done by sooner.
Yeah. Nancy, you cut out while you were reporting. This was Sharon, who I've worked with and talked to a lot.
No, Jennifer. It was Jennifer.
Oh, I thought you said it was
You're
Sharon.
Jennifer.
Oh, wow, Jennifer, 1,000. Wow. Sorry, you cut out and I didn't hear it. I was looking at
1,432 calories of physical
Jennifer.
activity, she said.
Someone else I've worked with a lot.
Yeah,
Way to go,
yeah.
Jennifer. That is tremendous.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love it. And the other thing she said, what I really also would like to do is be more consistent throughout the days and not try to have to do so much on the weekend. So my coaching to you there, Jennifer, is to start with no 0 days.
Yes. Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing, Nance. Say a little more about that, because that is that could be a takeaway for several people watching here. No 0 days.
I taught a class this morning, and that came up a few times. The benefit of saying, all right, I'm not going to have any 0 days this week. And, so that means if I can't do my usual big bout or whatever that is, then I commit to getting in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, anything so that by the end of the day, I'm not at 0.
Yeah.
And the goal there, it's amazing what that can do, because you start building a streak and it forces you to problem solve at least a short bout.
That's right. That's right. The difference between, let's say, 0.
Suddenly you're not at 0, and sometimes you end up doing more, but even if you don't, it's a number. You've done some physical activity, you're more likely to problem solve.
Absolutely. Huge difference. 0, you're not opening the app, you're not writing anything, you're saying, I did nothing today. You do 25 calories of exercise, you're opening the app, I moved my body, I calculated the calories, I'm adding it to what I already did. The difference between doing 0 and even just doing a little is hard to convey here. It's a topic for a whole separate episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
No 0 days. That's the takeaway.
Yeah.
No 0 days. That's a potential plan to take on going forward this next week.
Yes.
Okay.
Little extra there. Shane, I grilled a whole grill full of vegetables on Monday. Corn squash, zucchini, potatoes. Added some sauteed vegetables also. I didn't have enough shake mix on hand to blast the shake, so I did the vegetables.
Yeah.
Shane, let us know how many you had. It sounds like it. They sound like, I love grilled vegetables, so I'm sure you had fun with all that.
Yeah. So Shane, someone bought you a grill? It's nice to see you exploring that behavior. I'm kidding, because Shane is known as the grill master in Kentucky, and could potentially be a whole Facebook Live episode. We shall see. We need to get the cameras above as Shane waxes poetic about his grilling techniques. I actually think that's a pretty good idea, to be honest. Hit like if you like that idea.
So Kate said, I met my 11 veggie fruit. She did frozen bags of riced cauliflower, which were so helpful. Those are really great strategy. She also did 6 meal replacements. Well, you had said you were going to do 7. You did 6.
Wow.
Which is great. So what you did is you ate a meal replacement every few hours, so really consistently not going more than probably 2 or 3 hours without a meal replacement. And you felt accomplished, even though I fell short. I saved so many calories. And again, I love that you're saying that, Kate, because again, what did that plan have you do? It had you focused on, you always knew what you were going to eat next, right? You had a clear plan for the day. You weren't in decision anxiety. You always had something to say yes to. And as you said, you ended up being full and satisfied and saved a lot of calories. What more can one ask for? It doesn't matter that you did 6 instead of 7. Right, Rick?
No, absolutely. I'm so glad you included that. You don't have to. I mean, we want you to, and you want to achieve the goal you set for yourself. But people are ruled by black and white thinking. Oh, I didn't get the 7 meal replacements in. I failed. Are you kidding me? Kate saved calories, all new behaviors, everything about it was positive. You're engaged in the process. Yeah, there'll be days where you meet your blast plan goal, and there will be days when you don't. But it's about being engaged in the process. That is what we're talking about, staying in action. Awesome, Kate. Perfect example there.
It really is. And you know, when you think about when you have a plan like this, you have to use the slang, keep your head in the game the whole day, right? Mm-hmm. So the whole day you're focused on healthy behaviors, and that just helps you navigate through the day safely.
That's right. That's right. So many benefits to the blast plan. Nance, we can't delay any further. I know you want to get to people who are posting live, but
we will.
I want to review Dana. Dana, thank you so much for posting earlier this week when we asked for a report on the blast plan, and Susan as well. Susan also, we'll get to her later.
And they both posted in here as well.
Yeah.
Let's take Dana's. I love Dana's written one.
Dana's it's just like the perfect post. Dana's sort of like I almost am wondering, Nancy, is she like the teacher's pet? Like Dana, I wonder if you brought like the apple to the teacher in high school and put it on the desk very nicely. And is there an apple emoji that you can give to Nancy right now? Her response hits on so much of what works about a blast plan. So Dana, and here's Dana's words. My goal was one day of 2 more fruits and vegetables than my highest day from the previous week. So 10 servings was set for Sunday. Huge push. It took planning, shopping, and prepping, and starting earlier in the day. And I actually hit 11 servings. So that's part 1 of her email, or her comment. Nancy, what do you like about that so far?
What I love about it, the definition of a blast plan is, again, you're going well above and beyond what you typically do.
Right.
And so it has to require planning, prepping, thinking it through, starting early. Because if it doesn't, then it's not truly a blast plan. Maybe that means that your highest day wasn't even close to where you could have been. So I love the fact that she took this on, did the planning, the shopping, prep. You were ready.
Yeah. You didn't just say it, you thought it through. Period. You got to think. If it's a blast plan, you have to think it through. That's one of the...
If you're getting up that day and saying, I guess, I guess I'm going to do 10 servings today, that it isn't going to happen.
Right. Going back to Dana's comment, the great value was it helped me to stay in the box on a very challenging day of being surrounded by food, parentheses, can you say taco trays? I don't even know what taco trays are. Like, I know what tacos are, but this sounds like a treacherous environment of temptation. Nance, she stayed in the box. Comment, top of your head. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I'm just saying, again, you know what? Let's face it. There are times that we're all going to be in tempting environments. It'd be nice if we all lived on, islands at times when we're trying to do this, but it isn't possible. So what I love is that instead of going into a situation and white-knuckling it,
right,
trying to not eat much, and just feeling deprived and horrible...
Which most people do.
Which is what most people do.
That's what people do.
On willpower.
Yep.
You took what we call our to-do approach. You just looked at the things you could eat, and you kept eating. And you were full. I'm guessing you brought things that you enjoyed eating, so you were satisfied. And you ended up, I'm not saying it was easy, but it sounded from the way you're describing it, it was a lot easier than it could have been if you approached this differently. So, really well done.
Really, really well done. And I'll just wrap up her comment here, just the full endorsement of the blast plan. We'll definitely incorporate this often on challenging days and just those darn hungry days that we all get. And Dana, boy, do we all know what you're talking about there. Those days when you just want to eat. We all know what
you just can't seem to fill yourself up.
Of course. Yep.
And I love it. Like, she's identified the bottom line benefit for her is she now has a strategy, tried and true strategy, that helps her on these days. Does she need to do it every day? No. Again, but when she has one of those days she knows it's going to be challenging or she just can't fill herself up, she's got a strategy that she knows work.
Yep.
So, and the other thing is just as you were reading it, it's like there's, obviously it was words, but I almost could feel the upbeatness of her, like the feeling of, hey, I really pulled this off. I'm really happy about it.
Yeah.
I feel accomplished.
It's just totally awesome. Totally awesome. I'll just say, you reported that you did the blast plan. You did things that were really beyond what you would normally do. There was huge value in it. In some ways, I know I overuse this metaphor, Nance, but so that's the checkers or the mathematic, the arithmetic of of making the program work. But then you went to the next level. You did the chess. You did the more sophisticated calculus here. You took the experience. And this is what people don't do, Nance. It's like, I did the plan and now it's business as usual. No. You do the plan, you experience new behaviors, and then you owe it to yourself to sort of go up in the helicopter and look down and say, what about this was useful? It's not a plan to blast just for blast's sake. The idea is incrementally elevating your game around skills that very few people possess in today's society to better manage your weight and your health. So Dana, I know we're fawning over you. Still waiting for that apple emoji. You went from just doing it to then saying, now what did I learn from this experience and how can I apply it in a practical way going forward? So it was just beautiful. That's why we wanted to really focus on that.
And again, that's what I'm asking all of you in our post to do the same thing, is to, whether you did it or not, assess it. What did you learn? What's something you can repeat? Because that's with any skill, right?
Yes.
Rick, I mean,
yeah.
When you think about when you hit the tennis ball, if you hit it right, it's not like, what am I doing that's working this right? Or if I'm hitting it wrong, what am I doing? What's off about my swing that I need to fix? It's always, ultimately assessing.
Yeah, the tennis coach who's getting paid $80 an hour to say, do that again. Do it again. Okay, do that again. That's basically what we're talking about. But people don't ask themselves what they should do again. Nancy, quick shout out here. Just got a Sharon. Here you are. I just love her comment. This is just a real quick side note. Has reached 118 pounds, and the comment is, I do not ever remember weighing 118 pounds. So,
aww.
Sharon, beautiful. You also, similar to my comments to Dana, you've been a wonderful student of the methods here that we're presenting. I would invite all of you to take on that mantle. Be a student of these methods, and the results will just be so rewarding. Awesome. Okay, Nance, so we're talking about the BLAST plan as something that you take on periodically. It's not something you'd necessarily do all the time, all right? It really has you, as Nancy said, going out on the skinny branches. That's the way to break through the glass ceiling that in some way, shape, or form we all impose on ourselves at different times, and particularly in this area, losing weight, making lifestyle changes to manage weight better at a lower weight long term. So the benefits that we've covered here, Nance, I've got 5 of them. When you take on a BLAST plan, the goal is clear. And consider the average person out there who wants to better manage their weight or lose weight. It is not clear. So the clarity of this warrants being highlighted here. The BLAST plan helps you take on new behaviors, and people don't do that either because we all like to be in our comfort zones. So the BLAST plan helps you explore beyond the comfort zone. It leads to better weight, calorie management, and thus weight management. Kate mentioned this. We've just heard a couple of other examples of that. And then psychologically, Nancy, while you're doing it, it's actually reinforcing. You're making successful choices throughout the day, a lot of them, even more than you normally do. That's reinforcing in the moment. And then at the end of the day, whether you actually got that brass ring of what the exact number, if you were in action, there is a sense of accomplishment that you get from the BLAST plan that is hard to reproduce by just thinking. It doesn't happen that way. The behaviors come first. All right, Nance, I heard you chuckling. What did you see there?
There's so much in here that I want to review, but I want to go more with Sharon that you were just acknowledging that's down. So she was one of the folks that had a BLAST plan. She was going for 1,500 on a day. Wow. She actually did 1,809.
Wow.
You got to listen to this.
It's a lot of PA, Sharon.
Oh, my God. She almost did the weekly imperative in one day.
At 118 pounds, remind us how much you weigh. You're down, please.
I don't think she sat down the entire day.
Yeah, remind everyone to post it quickly, Sharon. You're quick on the trigger here. How much you lost, just so everyone knows you're not some 118-pound freak out there.
Well, no, I thought you had just mentioned. Yeah, I think she said she was down 101 pounds.
Oh, I didn't read that. But, okay.
All right, sorry. So she's down 101 pounds.
Great. Also.
All right, so you ready?
Yeah.
She walked a path that she'd never done. I walked in and 60 minutes of cardio and strength every hour, 3 times. my husband didn't say anything, but said the next day, he said he thought I was going crazy. My total PA was over 4,000 this week. And then where did she say? Further on down, she said, the last time I walked half the distance she did, I had to call my husband to come and pick me up.
Wow.
So again, talk about reinforcement and a sense of accomplishment to just not only have lost that much weight, but to have like the ability to do a marathon day. That's, it's a marathon day that you did. Just so satisfying.
Yeah. And one person's 1,800 is another person's 500 is another person's 300.
Yes.
You're operating, just speaking to everyone here, you're operating from your own baseline of these things.
Yeah. Yes, let's celebrate. Yeah, it's from everyone's baseline, and no one needs to have to be able to do 1,800 to be successful. Dana found a You were talking about the apple emoji, so now Dana has Mary had apples, and then Jennifer just put every fruit in the book in here.
Jennifer's posted a cornucopia here of produce.
We have basically a lot of comedy going on here.
Yeah. Hey, Nance, I have to just quickly respond to a question about when blasting shakes, do you add fruit to the shakes, or do you...
It's funny, you and I just landed on the same post.
Yeah, let's just... It depends. It depends. One thing you might want to consider is which is behavior that's less that you're less familiar with, because the whole idea of a blast plan is going outside your comfort zone. So, do you feel like you have a ton of skills with fruits in your shakes? Well, don't you think there might be a nice return on the investment if you pick a day where not all of them have to be without fruit, but to experience adding extracts and the sugar-free, no-calorie syrups or diet sodas, or you name it. Or vice versa. If you never put fruit in your shakes, might there be something to be gained by trying that? The idea is trying new things so that you can add to your baseline of skills in this area. And what else, Nance, on that?
Well, I would say, there is the advantage of having that high-volume, lower-calorie shake, similar to the one that you made with your orange creamsicle, that's really high volume, and just basically it's the calories of the shake mix, maybe another 20, 30 calories. That's a nice skill to have, because it's really an opportunity to be full on very, very few calories.
Right.
But certainly for people, if you struggle to get fruits in, let's say, the shakes are a great vehicle. And even vegetables. I mean, people put frozen cauliflower, they put in greens, they put in the spinach and the kale. So there are certainly opportunities to enhance your fruits and vegetables by using shakes.
And the learning Nancy, you've said this to me through the learning never stops. There's always a next step. And just to the point you just made, I am now adding frozen spinach to my shakes. It's only taken 30 years, Nancy. You're proud of me that I'm finally doing that? I've heard it for 30 years. And it's like, well, maybe 20. I mean, I don't think we heard that in the early days, but...
No, not way back.
Yeah, but it's not like you're sitting there like, oh, I taste so much spinach in my shake. But it adds volume, it adds texture, it adds nutrition. So, anyway.
The greens.
Yep.
It's the green. Well, and the other thing, people probably know about this, but frozen cauliflower. If you get frozen cauliflower, it doesn't add any special taste to the shake, but it adds thick. So if you like thick shakes, it's a nice thickener, and they tend to hold up longer if you're someone that likes to kind of sip on the shake and not drink it all at once.
Right.
So another trick.
So we're spending, again, most of the time in this whole conversation, because so many people took on blast plans, reviewing the blast plans that people did, providing that accountability. Again, the old accountability spotlight, please take it on. So if you're hearing things, and you've heard a lot already, a few different ideas here that may be things that you haven't tried before, is that something for you to be trying this week? You need to be an active agent in the skill building that's necessary to do better with your weight and health management. The only way you can do that is to be sampling new and different things. So that might serve, Nancy, as a nice little transition into talking just a little bit more specifically. We've talked a lot about the comfort zone here. So the comfort zone, and then I'll ask you to describe what's another way of saying getting out of your comfort zone, Nancy?
Well, we call it exploring the stretch zone.
Exploring the stretch zone. So in some ways at bottom, what your work here at HMR revolves around is many, many different ways of you exploring your stretch zone. So just by definition, the comfort zone, you came to HMR presumably with, a set of old behaviors largely driven by the environment that we all live in. They're not, you did what most people did, and you weighed more than you wanted to. So now we talk about practicing new behaviors that very few people practice, very high levels of a select few behaviors that are uniquely suited to help you better manage your calories and therefore your weight. Big time management of those calories in phase 1 to lose the weight, and then the ongoing process of building out the skills in phase 2 to manage that weight loss and manage your calories and health long term. So the old behaviors, that's where you came to us. But now, if you've been in the program for any amount of time, you've developed some routines, probably a lot of healthy routines around healthy behaviors. That's your comfort zone. The things that you get up and do, and they're very familiar to you, and they're not a huge stretch. They're your comfort zone of healthy behaviors. Well, if you're doing that, you're doing a lot more than most people. But true progress and even better results, short-term, long-term, really only come from exploring your stretch zone. So, Nance, if people, they've got their comfort zone of health behaviors, talk a little bit more, if you would, about the stretch zone and the importance of exploring that. What might it look like?
Yeah, and the comfort zone is very important because those routines are very important. However, I kind of always say you never can rest on your laurels. We live in a very tough environment to manage your weight and health. And we all have to continue to stay ahead of it. So the more strategies, the more routines and skills that we have, the better. We're going to be in all types of situations, some on a regular basis, other unusual events. You want to be able to have strategies to pull off anything that you encounter. So it's constantly important to be building, learning, sampling, and finding things, trying new things. Some are going to work, some aren't. But the ones that do, if you continue to practice them over and over, they will slowly become part of your comfort zone. So stretching, now the blast plan is an example of exploring your stretch zone. It's what I would call almost an extreme example.
Yeah.
Really, really. But you can explore your stretch zone in a little bit of a milder way through a number of different things. Well, one is to increase the number, but maybe you're not blasting, well beyond your typical high day, but you're still going above what would you is typically easy for you to do without much thought. There's also variety. Variety is another important aspect because, again, you want to have as many ways as possible to use HMR foods for fruits and vegetables, for physical activity. When you get into phase 2, all the various other foods. So there's variety. And then there's also timing. Trying things that work for you at a certain time of day. Well, what if you tried it at a time you've never tried it before and see what that does? So there are many ways to stretch, and that's something that's important to really be doing, I would say, on a weekly basis.
Yep. So you've got your comfort zone, your routines that are working right now, but a big part of this work is, as Nancy just said, exploring the stretch zone, doing things that you wouldn't normally do. That's not a blast plan. That's just exploring new things. And you might run into I don't want to do those, but when you do a blast plan, that's really to sort of create sort of a tectonic shift into really step in with both feet on new behaviors. And that's where you're like, I'm not sure I can even do this. So that's the distinction we wanted to leave here with. You should be exploring your stretch zone every single week. And that blast plan is really saved. You might be able to do one a week, but it's really saved for when you're ready to dig in and push well beyond a normal stretch into the stretch zone.
But even with the stretch zone, because it's not over practiced, you do need to identify it, you need to plan it.
Yep. Here's a stretch. Shane, 6 servings in one meal. So servings of
wow.
fruits and vegetables in one meal. Fantastic. Really, really good. And then Jennifer, Nancy, here's she can tell us, is it a stretch zone or is it a blast plan? I'm going to focus on no PA days for the week. That's probably a stretch zone thing. We try to have the blast plan be a single day just because you want to get your head around it and not feel like, oh my God, it's like such a burden that's going to last throughout the week. But that's a really good push into the stretch zone. I love that plan, no 0 days. I'm so glad she took that on, Nancy.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
Great. So you've already mentioned it, and the people who've reported, there are 2 benefits to the BLAST plan. The first one is you will practice new behaviors. You will break through the glass ceiling because we're talking about it and you're open to it. And from practicing new behaviors, that's how you elevate your game. You don't elevate your game by staying in the comfort zone. The comfort zone is just that. It's got you where you want to be, but is that where you want to ultimately be? The stretch zone is necessary to do that. But an additional benefit, Nancy, and to me is the real bottom line. If you practice a new behavior and it's useful, and you say, I'm going to do that again, as we heard earlier, and you keep practicing it, it starts to become part of your routine. What used to be a stretch into your stretch zone behavior, uncomfortable, I'm not sure if I want to do this, starts to become part of your comfort zone. And by engaging in this process continually over time, you actually expand your comfort zone of effective weight management, health management strategies. You just get better. You get more skilled at it. So, Nance, you want to just sort of slam dunk that point with this whole notion. This is what Coach Jennifer suggested that we do. This is maybe the most active, shameless request for active participation that we've ever done here on our Facebook Live support event on Thursday nights. We're going to ask all of you to do something right now. Get a piece.
So everybody grab a piece of paper
Yep.
and a pen or a pencil.
Right.
Including you, Rick.
I knew you were going to ask me. Here I am.
We can't see. You need to do it because I'm from the neck up, so you have to do it.
I'll do it.
So all right. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do, and everybody who's done this. I'm going to ask you to put the pen or pencil in your non-dominant hand. So for Rick, that's your right hand because you're left-handed.
I'm a lefty, so...
And I'd like you to sign your name.
Sign my name. In cursive?
In cursive.
Okay.
With your right hand, your non-dominant.
The awkward, I don't want to do this publicly. I'm going to do it. And I'm asking everyone to do this as well. This is called exploring your stretch zone. Doing something that you don't typically do and it feels uncomfortable. So here I go, Nancy. Ready?
All right, yeah.
The R. That's not totally embarrassing. I'm okay with that. There's the I. Whoops. Looks a little like an O. And then the E. Looks like T.
I'm glad you're not having to sign a lot of these because it's going to take you a while.
Wait a minute, I just was going for my last name. So, all right, C and then a K. Oh God, I'm not sure even how to do this. How's that? There's Rick and then Reese. Maybe I need to do it faster. That's awful. Okay, it's terrible. Okay. Let me add a John Hancock to make it look better. That felt it was I noticed I was thinking a lot and I had to focus to do it. I even forgot the connecting cursive between the C and the K. I wasn't sure how to do that. So I'm hoping some people who are watching actually took the time to do this. Anything else you'd say there, Nance, around that?
Well, I think it's just an example, the sharp contrast of the comfort zone versus the stretch zone. So clearly, you don't really have to think about it when you sign your name with your dominant hand, but with the right hand, it's like a whole different practice.
Right.
On the other hand, though, if I asked you to do that 50 times every day for the next week, I would say that when you came back, you would be able to do it more easily than you're doing it right now.
That's right. Yeah. What is a stretch? Stretch zone, uncomfortable, new behaviors. I don't want to do these. I'm not good at this. You do them enough, you be tenacious about it, and they become part of that comfort zone. So that's just a real quick and dirty example that shows that practice really does make perfect, Nancy. If I was to do that, I would be signing that that signature with just great flourish and aplomb. Okay, so those are the two benefits. You can raise your game by exploring the stretch zone, and you by exploring your stretch zone and having that be sort of part of your methods, you expand your comfort zone. You actually get better at how to manage calories and ultimately your weight and by extension your health. Okay.
So Rick, let's review Susan's blast plan.
Yes.
As a kind of a finishing off point here.
Right. So Susan, thank you for this. Was during the week you responded to our post to follow up on your blast plan. We really appreciate that. This was a really rich response, and it brought up an issue that we thought would be useful for all of us to sort of sit with for a minute. So as you're listening to this, Susan brings up something that many of us are subject to, and it's a way of thinking about weight management that there may be a different perspective that can be much more empowering for you if you consider it. So here was Susan's post. I said I'd have 8 fruits and vegetables on Saturday, but I decided afterwards to switch it to Sunday so it wouldn't impact my weigh-in day. I ended up having 10 instead of 8 fruits and vegetables on Sunday. It was too easy for me to accomplish this goal, and I don't mean that in a good way. I eat too much. Ugh. Maybe my next blast plan should be with PA instead. So the statement that we're putting on the docket for us to discuss here is I eat too much, but we're talking about fruits and vegetables, eating too many fruits and vegetables. So I would ask our audience, do you have some perspective there? Certainly Nancy and I have some thoughts on this, eating too much. And I'd also just say, Susan, that is really understandable, and we get it. That is the most common sort of response to this whole idea of, especially if you've been working on your weight for any amount of time, the idea of eating too much is so often associated with getting on that scale and not seeing what you like, and being discouraged and feeling like I'm not good at this, and I could just go on and on. So eating too much. So Nancy, again, I would invite people to comment in addition, because we've got a lot of people out there who may have some good perspective here while we sort of tease this apart a little bit. And we're not really just doing this for Susan. We're doing this for many more people than Susan who have that same experience. Like, I don't want to eat too much because then I'm eating too much. And isn't that a problem? I shouldn't be eating too much. So,
there's a lot of side comments going on about grills.
Grills?
Well, people are recommending everybody's into the idea of grilling vegetables now, so that's good. Yeah.
So, but right to this whole idea of eating too much, I would offer to Susan, and by extension anyone else who's listening, if you've got that very understandable reaction, you're looking at this based on volume. How much did I eat? And that is so often in the past been associated with not being successful in either losing weight or managing the lower body weight. I'd like you to start practicing the discipline of looking at this from a calorie perspective. Calories versus the judgment of did I eat too much or whatnot. Because from a calorie perspective, Susan, that is an extraordinarily successful day and an extraordinarily successful plan to have 10 servings of fruits and vegetables, which are what, Nancy? We're pretty liberal with this. We say 85 calories.
Well, we say 85, but that's assuming that a number of them that you're eating are, the starchy vegetables.
Yeah.
The potatoes, the corn.
Yeah, and those are all included. So if you're making any effort to eat some of the less starchy vegetables, we're talking about less than 85 calories a serving, Susan. And think about how much you were able to eat. And for actually very few calories, the little thing I'd shared last week, Nancy, I like to then subtract my physical activity for the day from that and just show that these two behaviors had me eating so much food but netting out at very few calories. But, what's the alternative here? Susan, this is less about you. It's about, again, I said it earlier, Nancy, as humans, we like to eat. We need to eat, and we often like to eat to be full. And even when we're full, we like to eat a little more just in case. That's normal. Everyone can relate to that. So by giving yourself some freedom around these low-calorie foods, it's so much more of a successful approach to food and eating than the whole idea of, I'm going to just try to eat less and somehow things are going to work out. Because Nance, eating less, poke some holes in that for me, please.
Well, I'd like to add to this, even from a personal point of view. So, Susan, you've lost more weight than I did. I've lost 60 pounds. So you're working to keep off a lot more weight than I did. But I've always been what I would call a volume eater. I need to eat a lot of food. I know I look small, but I eat a lot of food. And the HMR program and the ability to be able to eat so many fruits and vegetables has really been a savior for me and allowed me to be able to be full and satisfied without eating bigger portions of some of the higher calorie foods. So, you know, I average 65 to 70 servings a week. So that means a typical day for me is 9 or 10 servings. So I know it may be like a kind of a mental shift for you, but I wouldn't give up on the idea of continuing to explore higher amounts of fruits and vegetables. And as Rick said, you know, maybe some of what you continue to build your skills on are the lower, you know, lower starch, more watery vegetables that are in the 25 to 50 calories a cup range. You can get a lot of volume for very few calories in those. And, you know, the other thing I'm thinking, you went with 10 as your blast day because that was, you followed the parameters that we described. But if you reflect back and that was really easy for you, then maybe it wasn't a blast plan for you. Maybe a blast plan for you needs to be 14 or 15 one day where you really go all out and just see what happens. But I would rather see you filling up on these vegetables and not feeling bad about it, and you know, then continuing to focus on skills with portion control of other things like the lean proteins and the grains and things like that.
Yep. It's when people gain weight, like serious weight or even a pattern of weight gain, it's not from fruits and vegetables. It's just not, and it's not from HMR foods. That's why we call these to-do behaviors. It's from all those other temptations that come in tiny little packages but pack so many calories in them. So that's sort of the game that we're playing here, and we got a lot of acknowledgement, Nancy, from others. Jennifer, thank you, Jennifer. Okay. Don't ever think you're overeating on this program. If it's preventing you from going outside the box, then it's working. And in phase 2, if it's preventing you from dipping into the high-calorie temptations that are so hard to stop eating once you've started, then it's working. I would add that too. And
Rick, I'm just going to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, first of all, John was reinforcing this, saying I've been averaging 53 to 56 fruits and veggies for the week. I've had weight loss. I've now lost 146 pounds. It sure crowds out the hunger. And then this is from Susan herself. Actually, during this conversation, I came to a light bulb moment. I still am almost always in the box, but I'm gaining weight. But what I haven't been admitting to myself is that I add way more add-ins than I used to. And this happens a lot, Susan. Way too much PB2 and sugar-free puddings every day now. Maybe my next blast or stretch zone should be filling up on shakes with lower calorie add-ins and fewer starchy vegetables. Oh, I love that.
Stretch zone, blast plan, it's all good. It's great. Really, really good. I love
that, Susan.
Yep.
That's very insightful.
And Bob puts a final exclamation point on it. Eating too much goes for fast food, not fruits and vegetables. And Bob, I would add in HMR foods either. A lot of volume, very few calories. And the final point, I already said it, but I'll say it again. If you don't give yourself permission to eat more of these foods, what strategy are you left with? I'm just going to try harder to not eat these other foods that are tempting me. And how well has that worked out for any of us in the past? That's a hard row to hoe. So This is an easier approach, an approach of abundance. Okay, Nance, we're coming up on the hour. So what we're going to do now is we've covered the idea of breaking through the glass ceiling by exploring your stretch zone. A particularly aggressive way to explore your stretch zone is to take on a blast plan. going well above your typical high on a behavior. It's an excellent thing to do. And then the final thing that we like to do here is ask all of you who are watching, what is there for you to take away from this discussion that you want to bring into your week? You're already doing a lot, but again, the nature of this game is to progressively add new, different strategies so that you get more effective, that foundation of skills to support your goals. So what do you want to do this week? That's the question.
Yeah.
We've heard
So the question is, how will you explore your stretch zone this week? So, think about what you can do that's above and beyond what you're already doing. So it can be on any one of the variables, whatever you feel would make the most sense for you. We'll also throw out the idea of, do you want to take on a blast plan? Maybe repeat one that you did earlier, or
oh, Nancy, you're cutting out a little bit.
Either a stretch zone plan. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
How's this better?
Yep, go. Yep.
All right, either a stretch zone plan, or maybe you want to go for a full blast plan again.
Yes.
Or take one on if you're new to this whole thing.
Okay, I'm seeing some plans come in. And,
oh, good.
Yep. And given that Shane has said, what is the topic for hour 2? I think we want to ask people.
God, I guess that's it, right? so add the accountability by posting, so we can follow up.
Yes.
And we need to sign off here.
We're going to give you 30 seconds right now. What are you willing to commit to this week? Choose the accountability spotlight. You will be more likely to do this if you say that you're going to do it here in the community. As much as you hate us during the week, you will be more likely to do it. Believe me, I hate Nancy a lot when I tell her I'm going to do things. All right, so let's see if a few things are coming in. Don't wait to type them in. Very, very good. A 4 entree day. I love it.
Really, I love it.
Dana, as you're doing a 4 entree day, consider entrees are only about 26 calories per ounce. That's really low. Plain bread, nothing on it, just plain bread, 75 to 80 an ounce. Entrees are 26 calories per ounce, a third of the bread. Add some veggies to it, less starchy in particular, and now you're bringing the calories per bite down even more. So have at least 2 to 3 servings of veggies with those entrees, and you may have a tough time.
We're getting a lot of good plans here.
Go ahead.
I don't know if, so I'm excited. Keep posting.
Yep, keep posting.
Because we'll definitely pick them up, but so much of this is related to what we did tonight, so it's really perfect.
Yep.
Keep posting.
All right, Shane's got me all in my head that we're going on too long. So, all right, here we go. So, guys, thank you for being here. We say it every week, and we really mean it. It's just awesome. We recognize people's names now. If you're watching for the first time, your next step might be welcome, but become a regular. Be here every Thursday night. Get involved in this. We will help you elevate your game, not just us as hosts or whoever's hosting, but your fellow participants as well. That's where probably most of the good ideas come from. So thank you for being here. We hope this content was helpful tonight. Nance, you always like to talk about inviting people to what do we want to cover in future episodes. Anything to say about that?
So again, we ask you every week, if you have a suggestion, a topic that you want discussed, let us know. Comment here about something you'd like to do so that we can take it into consideration.
That's right. And be here next week. And next week, just by way of notifying everyone, next week we're going to have a different team who are going to be talking to you. Coach Sharon and Coach Jennifer. And if you've worked with them, you know how good they are. They're
fabulous.
They're fabulous. They're going to be awesome next week. And topic TBD, we will let you know what we're going to be covering. It might be determined by what you ask us to cover. So again, please post. Let us know what you want us to cover on these episodes. And we will look forward to having you on there and working with them next week. And thanks again for your time, guys. We know how valuable that is. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we love working with you. Have a good week.
Yes, everyone. Thank you. Take care.
Bye, everybody.